I read a script and there are basically two criteria. Is it, do I think it's good? Do I think it's good writing? And then second of all, do I find a way to get into this character, whether he's a good guy, bad guy, comedy, drama, whatever. Do I understand at least where he's coming from? And again, certainly have played characters that you can't justify their behavior, but I need to be able to understand it. I sort of need to be able to kind of see and hear myself as that guy, and I've turned down a lot of good things that because I just thought, there's other guys that are going to be better in this part, and one of them should do it.
First of all, congratulations on this film. It's we'll get into some details, but the first thing that I really want to know is so this it's not a coincidence that they had the same last name, these three. There is an odd thing where there's another last name that is not the same, but the last name is Schumacher, which is mom to a couple of you and wife to one of you, who directed this film. I believe there's also an uncle / brother-in-law involved, right? Who produced the film.
Her brother was the producer on the movie as well, yeah. So.
Yeah, so I guess my first question is, I can barely get my family to figure out how to have Passover Seder together. What's the special sauce here? How do you guys do this?
Well, most of the credit goes to the member who's not here. Michelle's out getting a jump on some of our West Coast activities, but also I think second probably is Joe's position as the game expert in the family. Who we spent a lot of time sitting around the table playing board games. So I guess, and a lot of the board games are actually cooperative games. So maybe that's what has helped make us a good team. Oh, also I coach their baseball teams.
Oh, okay.
Neither one of them plays baseball anymore, so good job there. Is your mic not working?
I don't think so. Hello?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Did you want to say something, or you're just okay?
Oh, board games. 100%.
Board games. It's all board games. Wow, interesting. Is not what I expected you to say. Board games works though. So where? So Michelle is doing. She's doing press on the West Coast, or is she?
Yeah, well, she's actually
more family for something.
Being with her mother for Mother's Day.
Oh, well, there you go.
And we're all going to join her tomorrow.
And so I guess was the plan from the beginning always to have you starring and then these guys involved, or was this project kind of percolating and eventually got to you folks?
Well, she wrote it. She and Carolyn Carpenter, her writing partner, after Michelle conceived of the idea and talked to her brother Randall about it, she wrote it with me in mind to play that part. And she was thinking at the time, this was Olivia's sophomore year in college, and that there would be a tiny little bit part for Olivia to play so she could come out for, a weekend and shoot one day and go back to school. And as they were writing the film, that part kind of organically got bigger and bigger, and they actually made our daughter go through the casting process of doing a self-tape for the casting director, who then does the thing, the 13, young actors who auditioned for that part, and here's my favorite, and here's and thankfully, her favorite was this one. So
did you audition under a different name or anything, or you just?
Well, no, but the filmmaker's name is Michelle Schumacher.
Right,
so
okay.
Okay. And then Joe had done some, when he was in high school, had done some, contributed some music to earlier film of Michelle's. He wasn't the main composer. And the plan definitely from the get-go was she, approached you and asked you to do it, yeah?
I mean, I did a small thing on her previous project, I'm Not Here, and she liked it enough to, offer me that, full main composer gig, so.
So she offered you weren't lobbying for this necessarily?
No, I mean, it was, like he was saying, it was kind of a family project to begin with, so it was it was a discussion beforehand, but then it sort of just became like this whole, you know, family ordeal. So that was,
Well, and in the meantime, he'd gotten his degree from NYU Steinhardt School of Music and studied film composition, among other things.
And did you charge your mother a cut rate, or did you go straight for the
yeah, negotiations were
serious
rough.
negotiations?
Got paid?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. This is the last film they'll do together now as a result. Tell us a little bit about how Fernanda and Isabella came on board. Was that just a usual audition process, or were these written for them?
Well, I mean, you could tell that just as well as I could, right? Really,
Yeah.
Michelle has the most information about that, but
They both auditioned as well, and we had Isabel come in for chemistry reads and everything. I say we, like it was my decision at all. I was just present. And yeah, no, they both auditioned and obviously were fantastic, and that's how they got cast.
yeah, I think, yeah, I've forgotten that actually. Michelle met a couple of times in person, and this is all, you know, it was 21, right? It was almost 2.5 years ago, so it was COVID time, but Isabel came over to the house, I think, twice, just so Michelle could work the scenes with her in person and all that, and then and the second time, you did some scene work with Isabel as she was, so it was definitely a more grueling process for Isabel than for anybody else in the cast, I think.
And so I know that none of you wrote this, but I assume you've heard the stories. Where did the genesis of the story come from? Do you know?
Yeah, Michelle had read a story somewhere about a kid, a high school kid. Happened to be a boy who there was some guy who had gone off his rocker, randomly shooting people, and they ended up chasing this kid through the woods, and that was, you know, the only aspect of the story that kind of put this spark into her brain, and obviously she incorporated, as she always has, themes that were important to her, and in this case about anxiety, which is so rampant in young people, about suicide and suicidal thoughts, and the trauma that Isabel's character has gone through before the movie even starts. That I think well, I'm digressing as I tend to. One of the things I love about the movie, about the script, is the nonlinear storytelling. You know, that we don't really fill in all the blanks with Isabel. We see her mother and her stepfather looking out the window, and they're concerned about her. We don't really know why, and I love that kind of storytelling where you don't lay everything out. Boom, boom, ABC. We don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then we finally get that glimpse back into me as this sort of wannabe alpha dog who kind of gets his ass handed to him and goes home, and, you know, is not that anything justifies anything, but it's like, oh, that's why he snapped, and, you know, he was a psychotic to begin with, but that's what led to what we just saw an hour ago in the opening sequence, and I love that non-linear storytelling, and that she's able to always in her work focus on ultimately family and the power of love, because really, to me, I've always felt like Fernanda Orejola's character, the mother, Jenny, is who this movie's about, you know, the mama bear, and I love I love the last frames of the movie where presumably I'm crumpled in a heap.
Presumably.
We don't know. Maybe I'm not dead. Could be a sequel. Just saying.
So you can run forever, basically.
Yeah, you'll get credit for the title. Yeah.
If I could be adopted, I'll take that. So I mean, yeah, it seems to deal a lot with mental illness on both sides of the coin here, right? And I'm curious. Do you know if the 5 things was that touching 5 things, seeing 5 things? Is that a real calming process, or is that something that the writers made up? Any idea?
Yeah, that's a real like anxiety technique that therapists teach people sometimes.
Okay. And so JK, can you tell us how did you approach this character? Because you play him with a certain kind of just this sort of calmness and almost like you can tell he's disturbed, but also he's kind of having a good time in a way. I'm fascinated by like how do you approach this kind of, it's just like it's kind of an awful guy, but you did your own thing to it.
Yeah, again, to me that was intrinsic in the story, because knowing, he's a man on fire, right? I mean, he's a dead man walking. After he did what he did to his wife and her lover in the basement, which I love that we never see that, he's dead. He knows he's dead. He doesn't care anymore. He's completely nihilistic from that point on, and this sort of frustrated inner alpha dog that's always been in there, that the little college girl kind of embarrasses him in his class. He's just going to take as many down with him as he can, and it's I sort of saw it as not that I get too metaphorical with characters, but he's a shark. I mean, he's just moving forward and until he runs into an unstoppable force, and that happens to be Jenny.
It's interesting. You say that you don't get too metaphorical with characters. What's your process? Do you do a lot of thinking, researching, or you just kind of play the ball as it lies, or what do you do?
It varies a fair amount, but now that I'm fortunate to be in the position where I really only do what I want to do, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage, right? So I read a script, and there are basically two criteria. Do I think it's good? Do I think it's good writing? And then second of all, do I find a way to get into this character, whether he's a good guy, bad guy, comedy, drama, whatever. Do I understand at least where he's coming from? And again, certainly have played characters that you can't justify their behavior, but I need to be able to understand it. I sort of need to be able to kind of see and hear myself as that guy, and I've turned down a lot of good things that because I just thought, there's other guys that are going to be better in this part, and one of them should do it.
Was there ever a point where you thought of going in a more like No Country for Old Men, Javier Bardem kind of lunatic, just like loony guy?
I mean, he was pretty decent in that movie, so I'm not going to try and play the notes that he played. No, I actually, I'm going to say never. I'm sure things creep in subconsciously, but I never think of other characters in other films when I'm deciding how to play a character.
Okay, so Olivia, I'm curious. So your only scene with your dad was like around the table, and then like a big fight scene, right? Yeah. How did you? Was that totally bizarre for you, or was it like, yeah, finally?
It was like, yeah, finally. That was the last scene that we shot, actually. Yeah, and so I had been looking forward to it the whole time, and getting to act with my dad was pretty sick. And I was also just so excited to do all the stunts. I do all my own stunts in this film. Yeah, no, I mean, it was honestly just so cool. And like when you're surrounded by actors who are as talented as this cast is, then they kind of just make it easy for you. And it was super fun and very emotional. Like as soon as we wrapped, I just started weeping, and it was embarrassing, but yeah, it happened.
All right. And did you ask any pointer? Did you keep yourself from telling her how to do stuff, or did you?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, first of all, I'm not the director of the movie, right? So, anytime she comes to either one of us with a specific question about something, or a general question about something, we're obviously happy to offer our insights and our experience. And I know, she and Michelle collaborated, as one does, very, very well on this film. I was sort of pleasantly surprised because I didn't know, what it was going to be like when she and Isabel enter in that scene, and how it's going to go. But it was really very easy to take off the dad hat and just play the character and terrorize this poor little blonde chick.
All right. That was weirdly easy.
I gave her a hug after it was over.
So, Joe, talk about the music a little bit. What was there any specific influences, or what were you turning to kind of like spur those?
Well, it's funny you mentioned No Country for Old Men because that's one of my favorite movies, and I was heavily inspired by the composer's use of very little like non-diegetic music in general. Like it's all pretty much diegetic. It's just the tones that are enhanced with the score. There's very few notes, So I obviously there's plenty of classical scoring in this movie, but I actually accompanied Michelle and the DP and the
Michelle?
grip and my mom and trying to keep a through line.
This is where it gets slippery real quick,
yeah.
right?
I accompanied them on the location scouting for the movie, and I took with me a field recorder and got a lot of sounds from locations like that were in the movie, like the woods and the house and the deputy station, stuff like that, to just to have a Rolodex in pre-production so that I could just implement them and hit the ground running when the dailies came, and then when the first cut came and the final cut came. The creative aspect was really easy because I built that Rolodex of sounds and also like played with themes and stuff for the various characters.
So it sounds like you were doing a little more than just composing. You were doing some sound design as well, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. I had some help from a family friend of ours who was the sound designer. But yeah, I designed my own sounds a lot as well, and used a lot of the sounds that were just recorded from the woods mostly. Some stuff from a few other places, but mostly the woods. Especially in scenes like the mushroom trip, where there's a bunch of sounds that are just kind of swirling all over the place. That was a really fun scene to score, and to use a lot of those sounds that were diegetic but becoming in the character's head, in Miranda's head, twisting and warping.
So do you know where the mushroom trip idea came from? Since you brought it up, I did write it down as something.
I mean,
that come from?
No, that was Michelle's. She was just trying to find ways that you could organically incorporate other levels of stress and anxiety and terror for this poor kid, and that idea of the being sort of unknown to yourself, unbeknownst to you, you're now taking hallucinogens in addition to being chased by this psychotic, and also that was the perfect way to bring in the suicide of her father, which was such a powerful moment to me. As I read it in the original, the sort of first full draft, and then obviously again in the final execution of the movie, I still get all goosebumpy talking about that, among other moments in the film. I think it was a great way for us to see that flashback without it seeming whatever obvious or cliche. Thank you.
Yeah, it feels to me like a real turning point for the character, right? I mean,
Right.
In some ways, I was thinking, like, as I was watching, it's like, this feels like Outward Bound, but with like somebody forcing you to do it in a way that's sort of not usual, right? So she needed this in a way. It's sort of
Right.
a
Yeah.
strange thing, right?
Yeah. Being able to confront that moment and it really gives her the strength to go on. And the father's one line, Michelle had been researching, and had learned that people who had jumped off like the Golden Gate Bridge or who had made the leap to end their lives, but had survived, almost invariably, immediately regretted that. They were in midair going, "Oh my God, what have I done?" So I love that moment with the father.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, right. Yes. So did the project change at all from script through production through post? Was there any giant leaps, or was the script like it from day one, and then that's what you shot, and that's what you finished?
I think one of the biggest changes was that a lot had to be cut. We ended up shooting a lot more than you see, but a lot of it was pretty much there from the beginning, I would say, right?
Yeah, the crux of it was there the whole time. Like, I don't think that anything of substance really changed, except for maybe some storylines or something from.
Yeah, she did do a fair amount of cutting after the first. Well, she did a little cutting with the first script, which was like, this movie's going to be 2 hours and 25 minutes, and maybe that's not what we want. It's not Dances with Wolves, and then actually did two sort of re-edits. She had a screening for cast and crew of a version that was 15 minutes longer than this, and then realized like half an hour into it, oh nope, I'm not done with this yet. It's too long, and she did a lot of trimming, and I to me, obviously somewhat biased opinion, but I don't. There's how someone can cut 15, 20 minutes from a film and you don't miss any of it is just remarkable.
Yeah,
She didn't cut any of my stuff, by the way.
So, I mean, again, I'm asking some questions that are probably tough for you to answer, but try. So I found that the two cops were a fascinating choice. Like the two rookie cops that you're just like, oh shit, this could turn into a comedy right now for all we know, right? I mean, it was totally a fascinating choice. Do you know, was that from the beginning, or was that something that you're like, you know what, let's not make it some hard-boiled guy who's going to go out and get him. It's these two cops that kind of never leave the station.
No, that was a very conscious decision by her early on, which partly to like add that, because there is some levity there, right? I mean, there's some, as with anything that's dramatic, a thriller or a family drama or I always, as an audience and as an actor, want to find those moments of humor, whether it's dark or like, never mind. I sometimes forget all the weird stuff I do in the movie, and then I go, oh yeah, I didn't write it, so. But whether that humor is dark or whether it's just like those occasional moments of like humanity that are just silly and goofy, and yeah, she made the decision early on that these guys were going to be just in over their heads. The sheriff, for whatever reason we don't know, got booted out of office, and there's a new sheriff on the way, and in the meantime they're like, we don't murder people around here. I mean, this is not. We are so out of our depth, and the idea, and that also adds to the stakes for Jenny and for Miranda. Like help is not on the way, so you're on your own.
Well, and it focuses it really on oh my God, what's the main character's name? Is it Jenny, Miranda?
Jenny is the
Jenny.
mother, and Miranda's the girl.
Miranda,
yeah.
the daughter. It focuses it more on the daughter, as opposed to like the procedural of going back and forth. What are the cops doing? I mean, there's some of that, but it's not really the crux of the film, right? It's not about capturing the bad guy. It is, but really it's about her
Right, yeah.
finding her way, right?
Right, and it was important to Michelle to tell, for her not to just be the damsel in distress and be rescued by the hero police officer, where she, like when she, steals my jacket because it's freezing. And by the way, it was freezing out there in the woods shooting at night, even though it was, it was October, but it was 4,000 feet altitude in Montana. And those moments where she does, take agency, and she is in control of her own destiny, and when she lets those pills go, it's beautiful to me.
And so talk about Montana. Why Montana? Was there a reason? I know you partially, we didn't grow up there, but you spent your college years, your early 20s there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a homecoming in that way. Originally, we had planned to shoot in upstate New York, and we. I mean, again, I'm just a pretty face. I don't I mean, her brother and Michelle did all of the production and pre-production and all of that. And in some random conversation, I was like, "Well, what time of year? Blah blah blah." I go, Lyme disease. That's going to be a problem, And she was like, "Oh, I totally forgot about that." And I said, "Well, they don't have those kind of ticks in Montana. I'm just saying." So. And then Randall did all the research and went with the tax credits and the Montana Film Foundation and all that. And, for a variety of reasons, it ended up being a great place to make the movie.
Okay, great. So we only have a couple more minutes, but first of all, what are you all up to next? I'd love to know, Joe, are you working on something now or?
Yeah, I'm doing music and mixing for documentaries now. Just finished a project that should be coming out later this year called Harlem Ice, about high school figure skaters up in Harlem. And my next project is working with composer Sammy Jono on David Blaine, the Magician's next few specials coming out on Disney Plus or something. So, and love him, so I'm really excited about that.
Olivia?
Well, first of all, I graduate from college in a week.
Whoa.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah. Finally. And then I'm in a film called Honor Student that I shot around the same time as this, which should be coming out soon as well.
Great. What school are you graduating from?
Pace.
From Pace. Very cool. Very good.
And we're hoping it's early, but there's a script, a woman that we'd met had written something else. Olivia did a table read of that, and then this woman said she wanted to write something specifically for the two of us. So a filmmaker who shall be named later. We're hoping that'll be coming together for the two of us to do in the fall.
Very good. Great. All right. All right. Before we head out of here, the big question is, where are we telling everybody to go see this film and when?
Yes, please tell your friends. We actually just found out, I think today, it's a limited release in theaters, but it will be showing in Manhattan at the Cinema Village, right, on 12th Street in the East Village. So tell your friends. It opens on Friday at the Cinema Village, and 25 to 50 screens across the country. But that's the one we know about for sure.
Digital
Cool.
at the same time.
Great.
What?
It comes out on digital at the same time as theatrical.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it'll be on platforms as well at the same time.
So video on demand, I think, sort of wherever you do your video on demand, you'll be able to find it same day.
Very good. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for coming out. And thank you for coming.